How's it going, fighters? This is Wolfpack reporting for duty,
This is Shamaro.
This is Pharaoh.
and welcome back to a brand new episode of True North Fighters by yours truly, K9 Calamity. Now, before we get started, on behalf of K9 Calamity, we'd like to apologize for not getting an episode uploaded last week. The three of us have been very busy with a whole bunch of stuff, work related, school related, and then, of course, me being out of the country for WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia. I have since coming back Monday night, I have managed to regain the majority of my voice. So thankfully, that's back, and I want to thank Shamaro and Pharaoh for being patient with me recovering my voice after I nearly lost it in Philly. But yeah, we just wanted to get it out of the way first. We wanted to apologize for not getting an episode posted. We were going to do a brief audio update upload or whatever. You guys know what I'm talking about. I didn't word it properly.
Yeah, it's just supposed to be like a simple like, hey, how's it going, guys? Not gonna be an episode this week, but here's what you can look forward to in the next episode. Yeah, scheduling stuff happened, and we didn't get to that either. So we do apologize, but we're back, and we have new cool stuff to talk about.
That we do. So thank you all very much for being very patient and understanding. As we've mentioned before, we're still working on making sure that we have a consistent schedule with as few, holes in it as possible. And so, yeah, with all of that said, let's dive into all of the stuff that we are going to cover today. So, while I was away in the city of brotherly love for the 40th anniversary of WrestleMania, our good friend Shamaro was covering a couple major tournaments taking place at Slashback 2024 live from San Jose, California. So, Shamaro, what did we have on hand at Slashback this past weekend?
So, Wolf, as you know, Slashback had a whole bunch of tournaments. I had hoped to cover 3 of them. Unfortunately, due to scheduling issues, I didn't realize that there were going to be scheduling issues, but they happened. The BlazBlue Central Fiction tournament that I meant to cover did not happen, it happened. I just didn't get around to covering it, unfortunately, due to scheduling. But I did manage to get a live viewing of the Guilty Gear Strive tournament and the Grand Blue Fantasy Rising Versus tournament.
All right.
And let me tell you, first up, we got the Strive tournament, which was honestly pretty hype. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I know that the 3 of us were not really too invested into Guilty Gear just yet. We're still kind of learning the ropes with that.
Yeah.
But even for someone like me who doesn't know a lot about the series, I still had a fun time watching it. It was spectacular, honestly. So this is our top 8 covering for the Strive. So in the winners bracket, first off, in round 1, we had Tickle Me More versus Uwabami. I think I'm pronouncing that right. So Tickle and Uwabami, they faced off, and it was really no contest. Tickle basically just thrashed Uwabami in the 3 games.
Oh.
I think Uwabami got 2 rounds in that in this first matchup, and yeah, it was kind of back and forth a little bit, but yeah, he didn't really stand a chance. He got swept. And then in the second matchup for round 1 of the winners finals or semifinals, we had Jonathan Tene versus Red Ditto. Now, this one was a bit more, bit harder to call, honestly, because we went to a full 5-game matchup here, and so Red Ditto got ahead with a 2-0 lead in the first game, but it was a nail biting, and then it was nail biting in the first round, and then one side in the next. Then Jonathan came in and swept the next 2 games where he made a really good comeback, just barely winning that third game. and then Red Dio came back and swept him in the fourth game. It was pretty one-sided, and then Jonathan came back and he won, but it was a hard-fought one.
Holy moly!
And then going to the winners' finals, Tickle and Jonathan faced off. And here's the crazy thing: there was a bit of so before this matchup, Jonathan, he was playing with Soul Bad Guy, I believe, for his first matchup.
Okay.
And he's pretty proficient with that character. But I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the character Zato. I'm not sure where he fits into the story of the series, but he's kind of like this like black beast goop kind of guy. I'm not quite sure how to describe him. He's basically like a shapeshifter of sorts. But he is, I like for the context clues I picked up on, he is kind of known as not the best character, and he's kind of techie in a way. But apparently, Jonathan liked to go with him if he wanted a challenge, and he got baited into actually picking Zato for the winners' finals.
Oh my god! Oh
yes,
no!
And as you might tell, and as you might be able to guess, that did not go well with him. Tickle, Jonathan won a few rounds like around here and there, but Tickle pretty much swept him in the first three games.
Good God!
And sending Jonathan down to the losers bracket. And then in the losers bracket, so for round one, we had Macmans versus Apology Man, and this also went to 5 games, and so Apology Man took it kind of in a first back and forth game. Then Mac came back and took the second game pretty one-sided, and in that game he was just breaking his opponent through the wall, because like in Strive you could actually have your opponent up against the wall, and if you punch them up you can actually break them through the wall and go into a different part of the level. He was doing that like crazy in the second game, and then Apology Man comes back and forth for the third game. Fourth game, Mac comes back again, and he just went out and pulled off some great strategy to make it a pretty hard fought win for him. But then Apology Man comes back and he just sweeps him in the fifth game, and so Apology Man makes it through, and Mac is just thrown out of the race. Then we have yeah. And like for this one, the announcers were actually going pretty crazy because it was a North Cal versus South Cal rivalry, and I think by what they were saying, Apology Man was kind of like one of North Cal's last hopes, and he just kind of saved them at that point.
Wow.
Yeah. So there was a bit of rival drama going on in that game. Next match we had was Trevor Sue versus MJ Kurose, and so Trevor took the first 2 games and was pretty back and forth, but then MJ came out in there's another 5-game round or matchup, and yeah, so MJ came out and he made a pretty good comeback with the next 3 games to totally sweep, and but it was a pretty close match. Let's be honest. And then losers round 2, we had Red Ditto facing Apology Man, and this went to a 4-game matchup. Apology Man got the first game kind of back and forth, but then Red Ditto came out and sweeped him through the remaining 3 games that happened. Then you had Uwabami try and make his comeback, and he was versing MJ. And this was where we got the Johnny mirror match of the century. For those of you not familiar with the characters in Strive, like we are, Johnny he's basically like imagine if Zoro was a cowboy, and instead of a Z, he drew J's with his sword. Yeah, so So there was a lot, like they actually, like the announcers actually asked for a J counter just to count how many times these guys did the super move where he actually draws a J with a sword. And I kid you not, guys, this was a super close match. It was like neck and neck. One giant would get hit and the other giant would get hit, and it just went back and forth like this for a good. Let me see my notes here. Yeah, it went on for like 4 games of this, where it was just back and forth, and it was just it was just too close to call like a lot of the time because like they were just that proficient with their Johnnies, and it just kept going where like the health was almost always even. So, but yeah, I guess looking at the notes here now, it's not as even as you would like this as you might think from watching the footage. So MJ got the first round again, back and forth, so close, and then Uwabami, it was hard fought, but the next 3 games he dominated. But yeah, it was a true mirror match where it was just so close. Like if this was on a bigger stage, like if it was on like a bigger tournament stage, this match would have gone down in infinity. I have no doubt. Anyway, going into round 3, we had Red Ditto versus Uwabami, and this was another pretty close match. Uwabami took the first 2 games, but Red Ditto made this a 5-game matchup again, and he went and he fought hard to get those other 3 games under his belt. So he was moving on to fight Jonathan Tene in the losers finals, and there was just nothing but despair because as Jonathan was still bringing out Zato for the matchup, and surprisingly, it actually helped him somehow. Because Red Doe, he blew through the first 2 games, but then Jonathan comes back with Zato in the last 3, and it was shocking everyone at that venue to see that Jonathan actually pulled off a win that huge with Zato.
Holy smokes, that's insane.
Yeah, and honestly, it was like again pretty close, but we saw some good play from those guys. And then, of course, that brings Jonathan back up for a bid rematch. Again, another time where a where's bracket guy gets pushed down and then he comes back up for another rematch. Oh my gosh! Like when's this train gonna stop? I honestly don't know. But anyway, Jonathan goes back to face Tickle in the grand finals, and so we had hope. We had like everyone had hope that Jonathan was gonna make a comeback and reset the bracket because he was doing pretty good in those first 2 games. Like he swept through those first 2 games, but then I'm not sure what happened to him. But then Tickle just comes back and wins the next 3 games, winning the entire tournament.
Oh goodness!
Honestly, this entire Strive tournament was I don't even know those players. I don't even know the game that well. But even I was having emotional roller coasters throughout the entire thing. It was just a crazy time.
Well, that's what fighting games do to you guys. That's
Indeed.
what it does.
Anyway, moving on to the Grand Blue Fantasy Rising Versus tournament. This one was a bit shorter just because they didn't do as many rounds per or as many games per matchup. But it was a bit quicker, but still short and sweet. Let me just say that. So in the winners semifinals for the first matchup, we had Ren versus Vermilion, and there was no contest there. Ren just swept like no one's business. Vermilion was rocking like the new Near 2B DLC, but it was not helping him whatsoever.
Oh no!
Yeah, sure, Vermilion got off like one good 2B super, but it was not enough to help him just because Ren. Like, oh my gosh, he chose basically one of the most annoying puppet characters I've ever seen in fighting games ever, and yeah, it was honestly no contest. And then going into the second matchup, we had Shasan versus Elsa, and Elsa basically just slaughtered in that one.
Oh Lord!
Winning the first 2 games and getting a best out of 3. And then Ren and Elsa face off in the finals, in the winners' finals. And Elsa also just sweeps in those 3 games, best of 5. And yeah, it was honestly looking a bit unfair for things then. Then going back down into the losers bracket, in round 1 we had Garden Tool versus Xiaobu.
Okay.
And Xiaobu basically dominated there. Garden and in the second game, Garden Tool tried switching characters, but even that didn't help him.
Oh gosh.
And then we had, we had Merp versus Kiwi, and Kiwi got a pretty good close game for that first game, but then Merp came back and won to win that one. It was pretty close, but yeah, Merp showed to be the better fighter. And then going to round 2, Brilliant tries to redeem himself against Xiaobu, but again, Xiaobu sweeps.
Oh man.
Like honestly, it was honestly not much competition. I remember writing this down, and yeah, it was honestly just sad how one-sided it was. And
Goodness gracious.
And then the next matchup we had Merp versus Shasan, and Merp just dominated this. Like I didn't even write any notes in there because it was so fast.
Oh gosh.
Like, honestly, that's how bad it was. And then going to round 3, Xiaobu, who I found right then was actually a former champion in the Grand Blue scene, faced off against Merp, and he gets one good game in against Merp, but then Merp comes back and wins 2. But it was incredibly close for that last game. That's all I'm gonna say. And then we had losers finals where we had Ren versus Merp, and this went to a full 5 games. And so Ren came out. It was honestly, it was a pretty damn close fight in that first game. Then Merp came back to sweep two games, but then Ren comes back again, and after switching characters, he just pulls out a tight win against Merp. So then Ren comes back to face Elsa again, another matchup from the losers bracket.
Oh my god.
Yeah, people, stop the trend. Stop the trend, honestly. So Ren got a good first game off of that, but even with his new character shift, he still couldn't beat Elsa because Elsa was another person who was using that really annoying puppet character, and they were using it to such great ability that they just swept the next 3 games. It was just a slaughter fest, honestly. Like Ren put up a good fight for both matches he had against against Elsa, but it was just sad to see, honestly. Like I was really hoping that Elsa would get dethroned for the grand finals, but it didn't happen.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So yes. So there are your 2 tournaments from Slashback. Again, I do apologize to everyone for not being able to get the Blast Blue tournament in, but scheduling did not allow that to happen.
Yeah.
But we will hopefully be more prepared for next year and get you more tournaments from Slashback then. Whew, okay. I think that's enough of me talking and blabbering along. So, Wolf, I'm going to let you take over the news segments for this episode. So, what do we got?
Sounds good. Well, first I'll get this out of the way. Mortal Kombat 1, the gameplay trailer for Ermac, dropped earlier this week. I watched the entire thing, and good God, I think Ermac is the most hyped up character for the first combat pack out of everyone that we've gotten so far. Yes, Quan Chi had some hype. Peacemaker had a lot of hype. Omni-Man sure as hell had a lot of hype. But Ermac, a character that we all know and love, who wasn't even supposed to be in Mortal Kombat to begin with, he just looks so friggin' amazing. He plays awesome. His playstyle, it's similar to what we got in MK9 and MKX, but they did such a good job with adjusting some things here and there and making him multifunctional It is incredible. We also got our first look at Mavado, who is a character that didn't debut in Mortal Kombat until the 5th entry, Deadly Alliance. And he's going to be coming in as a cameo fighter. So what we do know is that Ermac will be available for early access on April 16th, which is next Tuesday at the time of recording. What we don't know, however, is the specific release date for Mavado. We know he's going to be releasing in May, but we don't have a specific date. So players can look forward to controlling the man with many souls sometime very, very soon. And before we get into the meat and potatoes of today's episode, Street Fighter 6 has another huge collaboration going on. For those of you who might not know, this year marks 20 years of Monster Hunter. So, Street Fighter 6 is currently doing a Monster Hunter collaboration. Now, as we've seen with past collaborations, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Spy Family, and many others so far, since the game's released back in early June of last year, you're pretty much getting stuff like wallpapers for your phone in World Tour mode, stickers, different titles for your profile, as well as some new gear for your avatar. Unfortunately, this means that we are not going to be getting any sort of fusion-style costumes for any of the characters, which really sucks because I remember I still play the mobile game Street Fighter Duel, and I remember the very first collaboration the game did was with Monster Hunter, and we ended up getting a Gore Magala version of Ken as the very first collaboration unit for the game. So it's awesome that Capcom is celebrating 20 years of Monster Hunter and doing so with a collaboration in Street Fighter 6. But again, the rewards leave a lot to be desired. Doesn't really take a gaming genius to know that if you've managed to take a look at previous collaborations. So, wanted to get those two headlines out of the way. But the big games that we want to focus on this episode are Tekken 8 and Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. I bet you never expected me to be saying that, Shamaro.
I think based on how crazy these last couple weeks have been, I'd say it was kind of, I was semi-expecting you to come up with something.
Fair enough. So we will start with Tekken 8 first, and keep in mind, these are both IPs from Bandai Namco, so this is going to be exclusively Bandai Namco stuff that we're talking about here. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the Battle Pass in Tekken 8. This has been a huge talking point as of late. We've seen the aftermath. Less people are playing the game now because of the inclusion of the Battle Pass. Reviews have also started going down as well. I did notice for the PC version on Steam, the reviews have gone from mostly positive to mixed. So that is a really big warning sign there. But our famed developer Katsuro Harada has shed light on the reason why this was implemented in the first place. Simply put, long story short, he said that the development costs for Tekken 8 are basically 3 times higher than Tekken 7, and as a result that emphasized the need for ongoing support and updates to keep the game running smoothly. Harada said that the industry is actually is currently being faced with an incredible uphill battle in which, and I quote from the article done by One Esports, player expectations for continuous content updates and support clash with the rising costs of game development. And it was also mentioned in this same article that the introduction of the Battle Pass system is seen as a way for Bandai Namco to generate additional revenue to support the game's longevity and ongoing updates. So really, it's people want more, and Bandai is trying to do their best to give them more, but it's at the risk of utilizing some controversial methods, and like I understand where Harada's coming from in this particular situation, but this might not be a good idea because as we've seen with Street Fighter 6, the player base has kind of fallen off a little bit thanks to the Fighters Pass.
Yeah, like honestly, like if they want to make more money for like to help support the game, then release some merch. Like you don't even have to really put that much effort into it. Like sure, like Tekken 8 does have like the does have the figures out right now, but you could also just do like wallpapers for phones again, like simple stuff like that. Like you could just do these tiny little things, and that you can make revenue that way.
This is true.
Like there are other ways to make revenue aside from just making people pay more money as they play your game.
This is a very good point, and that goes to show that monetization is not the only way to go if you're looking to generate additional revenue. But yeah, Harada said it himself that the main reason for this is to help support the game's longevity and continue pushing out updates because, well, I wouldn't say there's a because on that one, but I think that the game would most certainly be better off without the Battle Pass, especially if you're not a competitive player. Like myself, I am like as casual as one could possibly be. I just play for the heck of it. I play because I love it. Doesn't necessarily mean that I love the fact that there's monetization. It's just the fact that I don't let that stop me from enjoying the game. So, like, I don't even go online in these fighting games because, one, I know I suck, and I don't need toxic players rubbing that in my face. And two, again, I just want to enjoy the game. I've been a single player mode kind of guy my whole life. So
until you met me.
Well, yes, of course, until I met you, and of course, until I met Pharaoh. So, I don't even really touch online because why bother playing online when I've got my own buddies that I can play with, right? I'm not trying to sound like narcissistic or egotistical or anything like that, but like that's just my stance on it. But
you still want the drama. Like I totally get that. Like I like usually I'll stay away from online play. Like the only online play I really do with the fighting game would have to be like Fantasy Strike. I did a couple of Fantasy Strike online things. Like Fantasy Strike honestly like just they don't even put you like into like just a one-off match. They actually put you into like a small like little quick time tournament. And I've actually come pretty close to winning any one of those. And like I'm not sure if it's just the simplicity of the game mechanics, but I've like and it could also be like the fact that there's no chat function as far as I know in the game. But like all the players have been pretty fair in not using cheap tactics or anything. So yeah, but yeah, like that's the only place I've found like a decent online experience. But yeah, I totally get it. Like there's a whole lot of drama with online experiences. And even if you are good, like you'll still get a lot of crap from players, and yeah, like we just don't want that.
Exactly.
Yeah, like if the communities were by some miracle able to like clean up their act and actually be respectful fighters, like honestly, for all of you that play fighting games, go join a martial arts dojo. They'll teach you the meaning of respect there.
Oh hell yeah, absolutely. So. Yeah, that's it about the Battle Pass. I won't ramble on about that anymore because there's other stuff that I would like to get to. And there's a very interesting thing that we ended up getting from Harada. There was an interview that was conducted towards the end of March, towards the end of last month, in regards to the future of him being the lead developer behind Tekken, and he actually sat down alongside Michael Murray, who is the other major developer behind Tekken. They both sat down with Len Hart, who is the voice actress behind the announcer in Tekken 8, and Hart ended up asking the question, when are you going to do Tekken 9? And Harada ended up saying this, and I quote, this is from the article put up by Event Hubs. He says, Tekken 9 will be our last work before retirement. If we were to work on Tekken 9, it would likely be our final project. Now, what I want to say here is that it's not confirmed if Harada's response is a serious one or if he's simply just joking around. We don't know.
He did say that if we were to work on it, so that's not a confirmation in any way, but it's a possibility.
Exactly. And he also went on to give us a little bit of insight into the time frame for when Tekken 8 should be releasing. He says this, and I quote, I think the next would be the release of the PlayStation 6 or the new series of Xbox. When that happens, I want to release Tekken 9 immediately. That's one thing I'd love to do, end quote. So, with that, not only is there speculation around Tekken 9 possibly being Harada's final project, but
it could also be a launch title for a new
It could also be a launch title, exactly. And you know what? Like, I think that would be pretty freaking cool. I mean,
yeah, that would be a really good send-off.
Yeah, it definitely would be. And I think if, like, the last fighting game launch title that I remember was, I believe, Killer Instinct for the Xbox One. It was the 2013 reboot of Killer Instinct. So, I think it would be really cool if we ended up getting a Tekken entry as a launch title for the next generation of consoles. I think that'd be absolutely amazing. And again, like, you don't even really need to be into fighting games to pick up something like Tekken. Like, yeah, you might not enjoy, putting in hundreds of hours into labbing different characters, but, if you just want to explore the game a little bit and have some fun, then by all means. So it's going to be very interesting to see where things go, but obviously we're pretty much only a month and a half in post-launch for Tekken 8, and we already have our first DLC character out and playable, that being the one and only Eddie Gordo, who was one of, I believe, 4 or 5 characters that made their debuts in Tekken 3. So, with that said, it's obviously too early to be talking about what we can expect in Tekken 9, especially considering when we're not even at the 6-month mark for Tekken 8 in terms of post-launch. But
totally, I think Eddie's trailer is at least a way of us knowing like what we can expect from the new characters coming out, because like Eddie's trailer was freaking fabulous. I'm not gonna lie.
It was. That, personally, I think that was one of the best reveal trailers I have ever seen for Tekken 8 up to this point. It's not the best one, but I would most certainly put it in my top 5. Abso-friggin-lutely.
It was flashy. Like, he was doing the capoeira thing pretty well. I'm not sure if I said that right. I apologize to any Brazilians out there, but he did Brazil proud.
That he did, and you know what? That's one of the reasons why he's become such a popular character in both a positive and negative way, because yes, his fighting style is unique, but his fighting style also pisses off a lot of people because they're not able to figure him out perfectly when going up against him. Like, you can't really find that many weak spots in his gameplay. And I I should know. I've battled against Eddie many times in Tekken 6, in Tag Tournament 2. And once I have him for Tekken 8, I'll be labbing him, and I'll be fighting a little bit against him, see if it really is true that you can't quite figure out Eddie Gordo. But yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to cover for Tekken 8. The other game, as I mentioned, is Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Now, there are 3 different articles that I found that really stood out, and this is going to be very, very interesting. So, one is I have an article here that talks about all the features that are currently confirmed for the game. So, the fundamentals for Sparking Zero are, in essence, similar, if not identical, to Budokai Tenkaichi. Essentially making it look like a direct sequel. It's like perfectly as advertised down to a T. But now, there's heightened speed. And on top of that, the dash button will actually also be able to give you a prompt for a brief dodge. And on top of this, it drains different amounts of ki depending on whether the character is a power type character or a speed type character.
Oh, okay. I didn't. Okay, now we we all watched the most recent gameplay showcase, guys.
Yeah.
I did not notice that. So, Wolf, that was a good find.
Yeah, it definitely was. And that's not the only thing that we know is confirmed for the game. Impact action is also in the game. It allows blows and ki blasts to collide with one another. And
yes,
we've got that. Z counters and vanishing on command are still a thing. They are still a thing. Key wave beams and other iconic super moves are coming back as well, in addition to what's called beam struggles, which is pretty much a classic timed minigame that involves a mystery boost button and ultimate attacks. So,
except this time you don't have to button mash, and it's not up to who can bash the button more. This time it's actually I think from what I saw in that play test, in that gameplay showcase, I think it comes down to timing and just hitting the right buttons.
Exactly,
so,
it's all about timing in that perspective. Absolutely.
Yeah. So for those of you like me who have not been good mashers of buttons for the longest time, fear not, those days of having to mash buttons in Budokai are over, thank God.
Yes. Now, there are some new things. Some brand new things that are being implemented into Sparking Zero. The big ones being the skill count meter and the key systems. So, the skill count meters, it's completely different and separate from the key gauge. This automatically builds stocks over the course of the battle and is spent on specific actions that may include some sort of skill system. It sounds very similar to the blast stocks that were showcased in Budokai Tenkaichi 3, but it's very, very clear from what we've seen that the skill count meter is going to be one of the most important mechanics for gameplay. And so it sounds like this is going to be something players will have to rely on consistently.
Indeed, I think if I'm remembering the showcase correctly, I think you use that I think one of the abilities you can use by using up those skill stocks is deflect beams.
Yes, that is correct, and that actually comes into the next thing that I was going to mention, the revenge counter, which is an armored combo breaker, and it is very similar to the drive reversal that we see in Street Fighter 6. And on top of that, super perception is something that allows players to actually counter oncoming attacks and even super moves automatically. But that does not necessarily mean that you can actually counter ultimate attacks automatically. And in addition, yes, there's a lot of stuff that's being added to this game. Ki can now also be used for vanishing assaults, which are instant teleportation that places your character directly behind their opponent.
Oh, that's so anime.
Yep, and proper use of these abilities, and I quote, this article was done by Game Rant, proper use of these abilities will quickly change the flow of battle, though their limited resources can disappear just as quickly, end quote. So that means that it's going to be a 50-50 shot, that's for sure. But I'm very excited that we are getting so many different additions to this game, even though that there are still plenty of details that are under wraps and have not been revealed to us yet.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be a game of a lot of strategy and resource management. I can tell, but also at the same time, like insanely fast anime battles, which will be fun.
Exactly, and besides that's what we're here for, right? That's what Dragon Ball is all about.
Indeed.
So, going from there, we have a very interesting thing that I didn't even realize was true. You know Frieza's signature move, Nova Strike, right?
I'm familiar with it, yes.
Apparently, it has never, ever appeared in any sort of Dragon Ball fighting game to date.
What? That can't be true.
Apparently it is true. There is an article on Fandom Wire that focuses directly on this, and there was actually a discussion that took place over on Reddit a while ago that basically talked about whether or not Bandai Namco will actually finally include Frieza's Nova Strike into Sparking Zero. And like let's not forget, Nova Strike is a badass move, and it is absolutely re-fucking-diculous.
Damn right.
It is crazy, and it blows my mind. Ironically, I barely have any sort of experience in any sort of Dragon Ball fighting games, but it blows my mind that such an iconic move from such an iconic character has never, ever been part of that character's moveset in any of the Dragon Ball fighting games that have been released up to this point. So, given all the different additions that Sparking Zero is giving us, I think now may be the perfect time to bring in Frieza's Nova Strike and finally end this trend, this unnecessary trend of this move not being in any of the fighting games he's made an appearance in.
Okay, now like as a semi Frieza fan, I am somewhat disappointed in Bandai, and now I'm hoping they can break the curse now with Sparking Zero.
I hope so as well. And the final piece that I want to talk about, it's a very funny thing. Apparently in Sparking Zero, there are certain characters that cannot fly.
That is very true. Yes, Master Roshi is canonically not able to fly. He for a bit of Dragon Ball lore, flying was kind of like all the characters that were like from outer space kind of picked up on it by themselves. But canonically in Dragon Ball, there were two major schools in the original Dragon Ball series, where you had the Turtle School, which was made by Master Roshi, and then there was the Crane School. And the Crane School, they were the guys who invented the whole fly technique. But Roshi, he stuck to his guns and never actually learned how to fly. So yes, he is definitely one that does not know how to fly amazingly. I know, like, it's crazy. Like, most people do, but like most people when they think of Dragon Ball, they think of like the guys who can just telekinetically fly. But there are indeed some characters who cannot fly.
Exactly,
they are few and far between, but they do exist. And Master Roshi is probably the most famous one.
Absolutely. The article that I found from thegamer.com says that one of the characters that was prominently featured in the Power vs. Speed trailer was Master Roshi himself, and he instantly starts falling to the ground after his attack is complete.
Yeah,
And
like I could see him being able to like do like really big hops, but I don't see him being able to fly at all because like he just never learned how to. And then of course like I guess this is kind of a technicality, but you have Mr. Satan, he's been around in the Budokai games for a long time, but he's never canonically been able to fly. He's always had to use a jetpack to get around.
exactly, and yeah, the game. This particular article mentions quite a few different characters. Mr. Satan was mentioned in that article, as well as Kid Goku and Kid Chi-Chi, who also canonically cannot fly. And so this is actually a callback to previous Budokai Tenkaichi games because there was actually a mechanic in place where characters who canonically cannot fly would only be able to hover in the air for a brief period of time before hitting the ground. And that was exactly what we saw happen to Master Roshi in the Power versus Speed trailer.
Yeah, so it looks like they're bringing that mechanic back. But like as someone who has watched a lot of Dragon Ball and observed a lot of media, like I can respect the call to like just being authentic with the characters.
Yeah, and you know what? Even though that Master Roshi still will not be able to fly, I think it's very silly in a good way that they were able to, have a little bit of reference to the previous Budokai games by implementing that particular mechanic. So I personally found that funny to have a look at. But yeah, those are the major pieces for Tekken 8 and Dragon Ball Sparking Zero that I figured would be a good idea to share with everybody.
Cool.
All right. From there, if I remember correctly, we've been so busy we actually didn't have any time to come up with an indie spotlight or anything.
Or a punch in the past, unfortunately. So yeah,
Or
guys,
that.
again, we're really busy. Like it's April, like Pharaoh has exams. It's tax season for all of us. Like it's just it's just been a heck of a month. And then of course I got my birthday at the end of the month. So
There you go.
like just a lot of stuff going on. So for the next few episodes, we might not be able to do a punch in the past or a indie spotlight. We will try, but we can't promise anything just for the time being, just because like schedules are high. And but we will try to at least do some discussion talks here and there, and we will of course, just because they're a bit easier, we will try to do as many dream rosters as we can.
Absolutely. And speaking of dream rosters, I do have one that is ready to go, and I am very thankful that, to my knowledge, nothing has actually been done with this kind of thing before. My dream roster would be based on the periodic table.
Ooh. Okay, do so.
Yes, the periodic table. So I'm imagining this as I would imagine this as actually it would be a 2D fighter, but it would have some elements of like a side-scrolling beat 'em up involved. So I'm not entirely sure how I can describe it, but there would definitely be side-scrolling for sure. I think it would actually end up being like a 2D auto-scrolling fighter, which is something that I don't think has been implemented that many times. So yeah, I would definitely see it as a 2D auto-scrolling fighter. And I imagine it as... I would see it as mainly like a gauntlet match of sorts, where you're pretty much fighting multiple enemies one after the other, but I wouldn't make it too crazy. I would say 3 opponents maximum. That would be like the main mode, but you would also be able to do one-on-ones, possibly tag teams. I don't know how I would implement 2-on-2 into that, but definitely one-on-one for sure. And I don't know, this just randomly popped into my head over the past few days, and yeah, it's just I would just say it's a wacky auto-scrolling 2D fighter where pretty much anything goes. I would definitely.
Oh, I just thought of something. If you want a good comparison as to like a 2D auto fighter, there are those Mario levels in or those stages in Smash Bros. Where it's just like an auto-scrolling Mario level. So would it be something
Oh
like kind of
shoot,
like that?
that's right. Yes. Oh my God, how could I forget about those?
Yeah. So there you go. There's a baseline for how that would work.
There we go. So yeah, I would say it would be pretty similar to that. Um, and like I would just let this whole thing be completely off the hook and just be as crazy as as it can possibly be. I mean, you've got all kinds of elements from iron to aluminum, titanium, all
Helium, hydrogen.
exactly helium, hydrogen, nitrogen, plutonium. Yes, plutonium would be a thing there.
Yeah,
And
honestly, like you could have so much fun with this. Like, I guess a cool mechanic you could have is that depending on like what pair ups you have, the what they're able to do or like what happens when they attack each other might change because of the chemistry.
yes, that would actually be a very good idea. I feel
Heck,
like that could work
if you
really
even want to
well.
do like a good gauntlet thing, like you were saying, you could have it where like you have the player character, and then the three computer players could like combine into like new elements.
Yeah, that could definitely work. Absolutely. That would be pretty freaking cool. I would definitely include that, absolutely. Um and you know what? I I wouldn't even bother with like the power scaling or anything. I would just throw that out the window. I would just be like, here are the characters, here are the stages, here's what you can do. Just go completely bonkers and have fun with it. You
Speaking of
know?
stages, I'm kind of wondering what you might put for stages. Like I can imagine one stage being like a chemistry lab, obviously,
Oh yeah,
but
definitely. You have to have it in there. That's like standard, man.
yeah, like
That's
chemistry
standard.
lab, maybe a nuclear or plant of some kind,
Yep, definitely
and
a power plant.
but what else would you have that could be like tied to chemistry?
Phew,
Like
that's
the only other thing I
tough.
can really think of off the top of my head is maybe like a hot air balloon ride because of the helium.
Yeah, that could work. I mean, there's the possibility that there could be one stage for every element, but I mean that would take quite a while.
I mean, like the DLC on this would be crazy.
Oh yeah, no doubt there, man, no doubt. Um Actually, you know what? It still sounds like a good idea anyway. So, yeah, every element gets their own unique stage where they get like a bit of a buff or something if they're fighting on their own respective stage, and a respective debuff for the stage that they're weak to, I guess, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I can see this being like a Pokemon Rock Paper Scissors sort of thing, but just a lot more complex, just because of like how intricate chemistry can be.
Yeah.
Um, there might be some stages where you need to double up and like like have a group of chemicals that would work well in some stages, but then be weak in others. Like I think you might have to like break it into like the categories of elements like the noble gases and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. I think that would work really, really well for this.
Oh, actually, I saw a good idea. Maybe you could do stages that are like a play on words with their group names. So like noble gases, you could have like a posh mansion with the chemistry sets, and then for the and then for like stuff like the heavy metals, it could be like a heavy metal band esque chemical plant or something like that. It's like
That
cool stuff like that.
that would be awesome. That'd be so awesome. I don't know how I didn't even think about that. That would be so cool. That would be amazing. But yeah, that's pretty much my idea. A fighting game where where the roster is basically the periodic table. That's what I would go with.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah.
And you said just before we started recording that you didn't have one set up yet. So now that we've come to this part of the episode, has an idea come to mind?
I have two ideas, in fact.
All right.
I've been going back and forth between which one would be good to go. And I think I'm going to go for the fun one, which is Pacific Rim.
Oh, no way. Pacific Rim?
Yes, of course, Pacific Rim.
Let's go.
I know there's been kaiju-esque fighters out there before. Like,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sure Godzilla. Like, I know Godzilla has at least 5 different games based off of him.
Yeah.
They're fighting related. But, Pacific Rim, like it's a newer kaiju series. It's only got, like, the 2 movies and, like, the 1 series under its belt is on Netflix, the Pacific Rim, the Black. But, like, there are so many cool mechs and kaiju out there and all that, like, limited media that I think we could really get a really good, like, I can't see it as like a 3D fighter because, like, I know there's already a kaiju fighter out there that does, like, a 3D stage.
Yeah.
But I could definitely see this as a 2D fighter where it's like you still have destructible environments, like you could be fighting around cities, and say if someone does like a cool super move, like some buildings get destroyed in the background, and then like because a lot of the fights in the movies and the show do happen like both on land and on sea, and even you have like some fighting in the sky. I could see some really good terrain work being done here. Like you could have like smooth streets, destroyed streets, shallow ocean, deep ocean, falling out of the sky, like the really deep, like the actual rift part of the ocean, like Mariana's Trench things, where maybe the fighters get a lot more heavier. Like there's just so many stuff you could do with like the weather conditions and just the terrain of this game. Like I could see, and plus like you could also do like just normal sunny day, foggy day, rainy day. Like there is so many different conditions you could have in the arenas that would like make this a really cool fighter.
Absolutely. I would definitely have to agree with you on that. There's so much potential for that, even despite the fact that, there's not too much source material. Like you said, there's the 2 movies and then the 1 series on Netflix. But yeah, there's a lot of potential that can be had with this particular idea. And, even if you think outside the box and you take some inspiration from similar franchises, like there's just so much you can do with it.
Yeah, and plus, like I'm not sure how this would work, but I feel like there would have to be some sort of mechanic because, like, in the movies and the show, like both the robots and the kaiju have to be controlled by 2 minds.
Exactly.
So I'm wondering how that might be able to be implemented into the game. Like, there's got to be some way where, like, I mean, you can have like the like say you got like you have like some sort of like mind sync system or something like that. I'm not sure like how it would exactly work or what it would affect. Like obviously it would affect like how well you're able to fight. Like maybe speed and strength would be a factor there.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure like how that would be affected but I could definitely see that as being a really cool mechanic.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, there's so much that you can do with this, and really, the sky's the limit with this idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Plus, like that after that second movie, we have to have a stage where they're rolling down Mount Fuji.
Of course, we have to. Like, come on, we would be remiss if we didn't have that in there.
Exactly. So yeah, Pacific Rim. That is my dream roster for this episode.
Awesome. Well, I believe that now brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you all so much for hanging around, sticking around with us throughout this episode. Hopefully, for some of you who might have not heard any of the stuff that we covered, hopefully we've now been able to give you a bit of some additional insight thanks to our opinions, and we'll go from there. So. Again, we'll try and make sure that our schedule gets cleared up. Make sure it's consistent with as few holes as possible in between, and yeah, we'll just keep on going. So, with all that said, from all of us at K9 Calamity, thank you so much for supporting the podcast, and just if you guys have any sort of questions, comments, whatever, feel free to let us know, and we'll answer you guys as soon as possible. So, for K9 Calamity, this is Wolfpack.
This is Shamaro.
This is Sparrow.
Everyone stay safe. The weather is starting to, get a little nicer out, so take advantage of it while you can. Yeah, I know, finally, right? It's
I know,
finally
like, it was
getting
so
a little
cool
better.
for so long, and now we're finally getting like we live in the GTA, guys. So like we've had weather fluctuations like all for the last like several weeks. And it's been cold as balls for the last little while, and now we finally get some warm weather. Like I can actually go out in just my leather jacket now. Like, that's how warm it's gotten.
There you go.
Several weeks. Here it's been like the months.
It feels like that. Like,
it has felt like that, yeah.
Literally.
But yeah, nonetheless, as the weather warms up, take advantage of it while you can. And most importantly, you know we always say, fight on, everybody.
Fight on.
So, with that, we bid you adieu. We'll see you all next time. Have yourselves a good one.